Now, as some of you may know, I actually live in Europe. Yes, I live in the country of Sweden. Do you want to know what we speak? We speak Swedish. And look at all of these different languages. You can pick from all of the major ones from the continent of Europe. But sadly, because this is meant to be an international audience, I'm going to pick English. You know what? Just this intro alone is really something that TikTok audiences would not approve of today. I mean, just look how drawn out it actually is. It lasts for more than 5 seconds. But after that very long pad, there is a CGI animated cutscene with Jiminy Cricket that is explaining the story of the game. Yes, this game has an actual story mode. You didn't expect that, huh? You'd expect a game released in the year 2000 on other consoles aside from itself, that being Game Boy Color, Dreamcast, and PC as well as the PS1, that it would be basically a Mario Kart clone. But no, it's not. It's more similar to Diddy Kong Racing, whereas you have to actually complete a quest, which is all about Chip and Dale accidentally firing acorns through this machine, and you have to repair this very machine by completing racing courses. But something that isn't that familiar are actually at the character selection screen. I mean, just look at all of these different characters. Just check out their names and their looks. What's the point? Where did these characters come from? Do you want to know the most fun thing? Plenty of these were made exclusively for this game. Sure, we have the usual Chip and Dale, but then look at these unlockables that are obviously in the shadows. And then these other ones that you can actually play as. We have as inspirations by Magica, that bear guy, a zombie, a servant, or well, basically there's a whole lot of different characters, which is an interesting prospect. They haven't actually been brought back for anything else beyond this. Kind of sad, really. Now, as you will see at the map, this is actually a bit unique, because if you actually look at this map, you will realize these are actual locations based around Walt Disney World. Pretty cool, huh? Basically, free advertisement for Walt Disney World in a video game form without it being obvious marketing behind it. Does this aesthetic work well to a racing game? Well, I'll show you. But sadly, as much as I would like to show you it, this is a game where I have to unlock as many courses as possible, so there's only one I can go with, and that's this one. Now we're on the stage. Now as the usual way for controlling a kart, you actually have to use the X button as well as the control stick or the D-pad if you like to. I was actually a bit shocked, considering in other racing games I played, you would have to use the shoulder buttons, but since this is a kart racer, it makes perfect sense. No complaints here. However, now that there are many different kart racers out at the time, what makes this game worth picking up compared to something like Diddy Kong Racing, Mario Kart 64, perhaps Mickey Speedway USA? Well, obviously, that is all really down to two things: the aesthetic and the controls. Is it fun to play? Is it easy to control? Does the game look the part? Yes and no on both fronts. Don't get me wrong, while the game looks the part, there are simply a few things which doesn't seem alright, and one of the things that I come to realize while playing this is the color palette. It is a bit too dark. Of course, it doesn't need to be neon bright colors, but that doesn't mean that there should be any bright colors. There should absolutely be. It just so happens that, at least on this level, as you can see, as well as plenty of others, is the fact that the colors are a bit too dark. You know, it's like the second Lion King film. Even though it has plenty of colors, the color palette is a bit darker, you know, not as popping. The same thing can be said about the set environments, because as many of us know, there needs to be something that differs it. And in this one, there are plenty of great locations, all based around the different attractions at Disney World, like I said. But does anything move in the race itself at the environments? Well, no, sadly, this is one of the times where the game does lose a few points. Sure, it doesn't look barren, but there sadly ain't much movement or that much interaction in between characters. I mean, seriously, during the entire playthrough of this review, there was absolutely no talk in between characters. There was no quips, nothing at all. Now, does this game has anything to offer when it comes to the actual kart racing itself? Well, like most kart racers, you basically want to run 3 laps and then hit the finish line to get as good of a placement as possible. Along the way, there are different alternative items that you can grab by basically driving into these balloons, and they all differ depending on the color of the balloon itself. Some items don't do what you think, while some items does what you do think. I mean, for instance, just look at now where I'm shining. You would expect that would give me a speed boost, you know, so that I will actually have a greater chance of making it to the finish line. But no, it doesn't. It simply adds some sparkles and some music. If I go on to guess, I think it's because it gives me invincibility. But when you are behind, it doesn't fucking matter. One item in particular, which I find to be really annoying, but which is real fun to pull off yourself, is this item that turns whoever is affected by it into a frog. Do you want to know the funniest thing? This is not really a projectile item. It just hits whatever player is in front of you. All of a sudden, they become a frog. As you can see through the footage of this review, and I gotta tell you, I was really confused and surprised when that did happen. Of course, it's not an eternal effect. It does last for a little while, but not for far too long. So, that's something, I guess. So, this does sound very promising, right? It has decent controls, it has good gameplay, it has fun items. It's actually a pretty decently fun kart racer, and definitely suitable for its time. But then the question is there a reason why you don't want to get it? Yes, and there's a reason why. There's only 2 players. Why not just 4? That is standard, even in Crash Team Racing. It has 4 players listed on the box. And yes, on this box, it has 2 players listed.